I know that you talk about how you don't do magic tricks, but since I've known you, you have always had a lot of different and helpful techniques, just
Yeah.
exercises that you do that have
So
been
there is an
incredibly helpful.
exercise. There is an exercise that I'll do for resentments. Um, I'm gonna pull it up actually.
Because we've talked about the 4 elements, and I've got that posted on
Yeah.
the website.
So there is. Let's see here. Let's see if I've got it here. An exercise that I do. And oh, here it is. Great. And it's like, it's basically, it's a lot like step work where you're kind of doing some written work here, but it's both written work, and sometimes I ask that there be like an empty chair technique here.
Okay.
And it's 4 steps that if we're specifically only working on resentment, and the first thing I ask is, I would like for you to confess the full extent of your resentment.
Okay, this is step one of your 4 steps. Okay, confess
the full extent.
The full extent.
Usually it's an event, okay? It's a moment.
Something that happened between you and that other person that caused you to have these negative.
I got an extra charge on my modem from Comcast, whatever. I felt like they were doing an injustice to me.
Okay.
I'm just pretending Comcast is a person as well. So they confess it, kind of create a narrative. Sometimes, Carla, I will do EMDR right here. Well, where there's such a vivid image of it that I can do EMDR with them.
Okay.
Sometimes. If not, I'm moving to the next step, and I just ask them to share what it's getting them. Like, what are they receiving from holding this resentment? I get to be angry. That's one that shows up a lot. I get to be angry at them.
Yeah, anger is one of the major.
I get to see that. Yeah, I'm a much better person than they are.
I don't deserve this.
Yeah. So noticing that payoff. And then I ask them, what is it costing you? That's such a hard question for them, for individuals. That's so difficult at first. That's a lot of exploration that happens in curiosity. Because they look at me and they're like, what? What do you mean what it's costing me? Well, what is it costing you? If you're holding this resentment, how's it making you feel? Okay. Is that enjoyable? No. Okay, that must cost you something. What else is it costing you? And 9 times out of 10, we find out that it costs them time.
I was, avoidance. Yeah, I was going to say things like time, trying to keep from being around that person.
Or it costs me from having a relationship with another person.
And right.
Because usually there's a third person involved. Or a spouse that's like, man, my spouse is tired of hearing about this person.
And well, quit talking about it. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. And that's affecting the relationship with the spouse. Real quick. So then I ask them, so we go through that and we just we finally notice that the cost of it is far greater than the payoff.
Okay.
And then sometimes I do the empty chair technique on this next step. Or I ask the person to go and look at a mirror. And I see if they can ask for or offer for forgiveness. And just seeing how that, if that's possible, how that is, how that, or I'll get some rice paper and we'll do like a little ritual around it where they'll write their resentment or something on the, their forgiveness or whatever it is on rice paper, and they'll put it in water and it dissolves.
Okay.
And then I ask them to commit to a new intention or an action, a way of being. And a lot of times I will actually bring out the light bar there or my hand, and I'll ask them to play out a movie or a scene in their mind, and of them committing to this new intention or action, this new skill, this new way of being, and visualizing that, what that looks like. And if they come across a block, meaning they get stuck, you know, oh, I find myself now like I'm actually angry again. And at that time, that's when I'll use EMDR with them, or just noticing what that block is. And it's usually a belief about themselves. I just can't do this.
I have done that with describing, pretending that we're actually in a video, and to go through and describe as in as much detail as we can what happened in the situation, and then to rewind the video, press the pause button on where things started going cattywampus, and replay and write a new ending to it,
Right.
of how you would actually to have preferred to have conducted yourself as opposed to the way it actually ended.
Yes.
But now, when you brought in the forgiveness, that's a real tough one for people, and we've mentioned that before. How do you approach that without it turning into guilt?
So they feel guilty about, so they're feeling guilty about holding that resentment, or guilty about not being able to forgive them.
That's exactly correct. Feeling guilty because it's like that person really caused me incredible harm. Forgiving them is just not something that my heart and mind is ready for, or even can approach at this point in time.
Yeah. So I actually flip it the other direction. And I actually say, well, it's actually not about necessarily forgiving them.
Yeah.
It's more about forgiving yourself for holding all of this stuff.
Just the words of, I am so sorry, Carla, or I am so sorry, Taylor.
Yeah.
You know, talking to yourself